Hey there everyone, Lord Frigid here with another episode of Aether Raids Offense. You may recall that at the end of the last video, I said that perhaps this season would be more challenging. I was rather skeptical of that. It was, after all, also water season, which tends to be pretty smooth. But oh boy, did the RNG come out swinging with a whole slew of Infantry Pulse, Rally Trap, Restore Trap, and Space Suppression setups. I actually had a hard time choosing which ones to use. So this was definitely a high intensity week, at least relative to what I'm used to for light season. All that said, I hope you like the lineup I picked out, and let's get into the battles! The first map up is an Infantry Pulse setup. It's a bit tamer than some Infantry Pulse maps, mostly because May and Gordon's specials don't get fully charged. Obviously, that's more of a problem for May, as Gordon will get his up on the second hit if he initiates combat, and the defending unit doesn't have some sort of special charge inhibiting effect. The biggest weakness I see for this map is this space right here. If you break the tactics room and fake Kamimochi, you can leave a tank at this location to bait out air. Then, because all the units have assists, Faye will probably move immediately afterward and get refreshed by Sylvia. Sylvia will likely get a swap from Flora or a drawback from May or Gordon afterward, but the main idea is that you'll only need to actually fight Air and Faye on that first enemy phase. From that point on, it's possible to keep Sylvia and one other foe stuck in a positioning assist loop, preventing the units involved from advancing and allowing you to pick off the others one by one. Another, more specific weakness is to Gale Force setups. By taking out Sylvia, Faye, and Gordon, you can trap Flora, May, and Air between the existing structures and a mere 2 units. This is one of those times where having the utility provided by a Gale Force refresher really comes in handy. For those of you who've been following this series, that's probably a dead giveaway on my approach to this map, so let's go ahead and move on to that now. I'm going to go ahead and send in the Cedar raiding party for this battle. I will kick things off with a trap testing spree. I'll go ahead and move Air directly onto the bolt trap here. Nothing in range for her to break, so she'll just be walking on and just hit and wait. And that's real. That's real? Why is that real? That could literally ruin the entire infantry pull strategy.
I will go.
Oh well, it doesn't matter. So, and smite Peony onto this heavy trap, and now refresh Air, and the heavy trap activation is no problem because Gentle Dream allows you to warp to Peony for the reposition. That's honestly one of the most fun applications of Gentle Dream that I know of. So let me go ahead and start getting ready here. I should only need one more turn, I believe. Actually, let me go ahead and test this matchup just to make sure I've got the numbers all right. Yes, she can actually take Sylvia down even though she is affected by the Bright Shrine. I am totally fine with that. This tactics room could bother me, except no, it doesn't have the range if I use reposition to get Peony back over here and then down to the left of Sita, which provides the Fortify Res bonus and allows me to move her up 2 spaces for the refresh when Sita moves next turn. So I can go ahead and kick things off here. Let me go ahead and just move Sita and reposition. And let me go ahead and refresh her. Just make sure I've got the Faye matchup right as well. Okay, that's good. Smite Azura up. Just triple check this one. Okay, she actually... Oh, drive attack makes her deal more damage, but it's not so much that she one-shots, which is good. So let's go ahead and take out Faye, charge up Gale Force, and then Azura will be able to do the same by attacking Sylvia. And then what I can do is, since Peony is still so close to Sita, that gives her the attack she needs to be able to take down Gordon. And from there, the space vacated by Gordon is a perfect spot for me to stick Sita after I refresh her with Azura, and that actually blocks in both May and Air. Well, actually, it's only going to be one of the two, since I'll be having Sita take out the other one. So now Flora and May are perfectly trapped, and the rest of this battle is pretty simple cleanup here. So I'm just going to go ahead and Air's going to need to take out the Aether structures. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and let this one run its course.
Ready. The glimmer of life. What next? Yeah! Let's go. What can I do? What next? Let's go. Certainly. Let's go. Yeah!
The next map is a space oppression style setup with Reinhardt and Olwen threatening a significant amount of occupiable space. The map is further complicated by a rally trap, using Kempf to provide rally defense if you try to bait out one of the ranged cavalry, after which he will receive a refresh from the top left peony who has aerobatics. One interesting thing to note is that this potentially makes coverage weaker on the left side, since the right side peony will only be able to refresh if Lilith moves to the right instead of the left. The interaction with Kempf and the two ranged cavalry he rallies is also interesting. If Kempf attacks first, he will apply Venon's Sword and leave any unit without Null Sea Disrupt vulnerable to the ranged follow-up. If he attacks second, he will ignore Vantage with his Hardy Bearing Seal. All in all, it's a pretty interesting map concept. Annoyingly, I don't see any generally exploitable structural weaknesses. You should be able to use tanking setups if your tank can KO both Kempf and whichever two ranged cavalry they bait out, and the two ranged cavalry deals more damage. That will cause the AI to prioritize the two ranged cavalry, meaning that Venom Edge won't prevent you from taking them down. This works much better if you can bait Reinhardt, because, as I mentioned before, the left side peony will be forced to provide the refresh, and the right side peony doesn't have the range to assist enemies going down the left side. This prevents Lilith from reaching your team if you have enough space open on your back line. Theoretically, you could bait Olwen under the same conditions, and force Lilith to go left through AI manipulation, by placing the unit she deals the most damage to in one round of combat in the lower left corner. Another interesting option here is Gale Force. Note that the trap setup does not provide one-range combat protection to Reinhardt and Olwen, and does not prevent you from smiting your units up either side of the middle lava strip from the starting positions. This could lead to a turn 1 Gale Force initiation, circumventing the rally trap, space suppression, and field buffs entirely. So the Cedar Raiding Party hard counters this setup, so no reason not to deploy him here. I'm going to avoid the space suppression rally trap setup by initiating on turn 1. I'll have Air reposition Azura up the right-hand side, and I'll have my other Air smite Sita up the left-hand side, and then let's go ahead and... Ooh, I miscalculated that matchup. But this one's fine. I'll have Sita take out Reinhardt. And now what did I miss on Azura versus Olwen? Oh no. Oh, I missed the enemy peony's Flower of Joy. Oh, yikes. You know, I calculate matchups with my own, including my own Flower of Joy fairly often, so it's actually kind of embarrassing that I missed this one. I think I know how to fix it, but let me take some thinking time just to make sure I've got all my numbers right and that I haven't missed anything else. So I'll see you in a bit.
Certainly. Right then. Certainly. Dragons grant me strength. I've had it.
Alright, so the fix is to get my peony in the same column as my Azura, which fixes the speed issues. She will be able to double Olwen, and whoa, I never actually realized that that treble clef accessory on Olwen's head is drawn wrong. That's actually kind of triggering. And kind of irrelevant. Sita should be able to cleave right through Lilith's, I think it's 1 point of mitigation on her, on Guardian Fang, so no big deal there. Yes. So can Azura take out Kempf, actually? Okay, no, she can't. Can Sita take out Kempf? I'm a little concerned here because I think I might run into the same speed issues since Kempf does have 2 peonies in the same row. Yeah, so even though Sita has effective damage, she won't be able to take him out. No reason to get a hit from Venom Edge with no good reason. I'll just take out a peony, and we will see how the enemy phase goes. After this combat, I'm going to actually go ahead and have Air break the Panic Manor to prevent any buffs from being reversed. So, let's see here. Okay, peony attacks first. That's interesting. Why does she attack first? I mean, I know there's the refresher rule that says if they can deal at least 5 damage, then they'll have to attack something in their range. Now, that's not necessarily the unit they can deal 5 damage to. They follow the normal prioritization rules after they've determined that they must attack, but I don't think she was able to deal at least 5 damage to either unit here. Oh wait, duh, there wasn't anyone to refresh. Kemp hadn't taken an action yet. I feel silly. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So her combat was prioritized over Kemp's because she didn't die, which is totally fine by me. I can trap Peony next to the healing tower between Azura and Sita. And now on the next player phase, I will have Air take out the Bolt Tower.
Yes.
Then I will give her the refresh from Peony, take out the Aether Fountain, and then have Sita finish the job. The third and final map is another Infantry Pulse setup, using some of the most annoying Infantry 2 range units to deal with in the game. There's also a Rally Trap element, with the top Bramimond carrying Rally Up Attack. Usually I don't like to make assumptions about slot order, but in cases like this, it's usually safe to assume that the team is set up in such a way as to force Bramimond to use ground orders to jump out in front of Alphonse to target him for the rally. This is an extra safe assumption because it's the most threatening thing the team could possibly do in the face of a bait attempt. Like the second map, this one doesn't have glaring structural weaknesses. Even the usual flaw of being easy to approach doesn't help too terribly much, since all of the significant threats are difficult to take down. One interesting option specific to legendary Leif users is to smite him over the forests on turn 1, eliminate the lower Bramimond and Alphonse with a Nyoran's Zeal activation, then break the Aether Fountain with a ranged unit and have Peony refresh him, which allows him to jump back over the trees to reposition her to safety. A second refresher is ideal to make absolutely sure Leif gets out of harm's way as well. This disrupts the Infantry Pulse setup and forces one of the refreshers to move first. It's particularly relevant in water season, but potentially applicable in any season, since Leif is easily a top-tier Aether Raids Offense unit worth fielding on a performance team if you find that you need one to cover your scoring team's weaknesses. Other niche options include using isolation to prevent the warping element of the rally trap, and bait the units out at a significantly slower pace. It's even possible to tank the trap outright, especially if your unit has triangle advantage against blue and colorless foes. This note may give consistent viewers of the series a pretty good idea of my approach method, and I don't really have anything more to say about the map, so let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and send in the Dragon Armor team here. I will kick things off by having Nagi break the Aether Fountain, and then after a refresh from Peony, move to the edge of Alphonse's range. And I believe that triggers the interaction of Bramimond warps in front of Alphonse due to ground orders and provides rally up attack. Raisin warps to Bramimond through aerobatics and refreshes, and then, because Bramimond does deal more damage to Nagi than Alphonse does, I believe that Bramimond attacks first, which means that when Alphonse does attack, he won't have attack Death Bond, which is really nice. Oh, that's interesting. Sylvia decided to refresh instead of Raisin. Now that makes my question, does Raisin deal at least 5 damage to Nagi? And now note here that Bramimond's Luna deals so much damage to Nagi that Soul won't heal her up above the 70% HP threshold for quick riposte. So when Alphonse does attack her, she will not be able to perform a follow-up attack, which leaves him at low HP, looks like 13. So, in this case, both of the refreshers have Wings of Mercy, so they would have been able to warp. My thinking was Raisin would have provided the initial refresh to Bramimond, so Sylvia would warp to Alphonse here. But, let's take a look. Okay, Raisin does deal at least 6 damage, and in fact, this is much better for me, because Nagi heals more off of Raisin than she would have off of Sylvia. Actually, she wouldn't have gotten the heal off of Sylvia, since Guard Sword would have stopped Soul from charging up enough. But that said, I do need to go ahead and take a little bit of thinking time here, just because the situation is different, and I want to make sure I've got all my ducks in a row. So I will see you in a bit.
What's wrong? And how may I help?
Alright, so I've looked at the numbers, and I've determined that my best path forward is to have Air attack Raisin. This is actually what I would have done if Sylvia had warped in front, since Nagi would have done at least enough damage to Sylvia for Air to finish the job. And now what I'm going to do is trigger a fancy-ish warp chain, starting with Nagi attacking Alphonse. Then, when Peony refreshes Nagi, Idun will be able to jump out in front of her to take out Bramimond. And interestingly enough, Bramimond is so slow, I actually ran these numbers, and even a +0 Idun with minus speed would have been able to pull this feat off, which is simultaneously hilarious and depressing. So, and then to finish things off, I will have Nagi move to the left of Idun, and block Henry off from being able to reach air. And in fact, this forces both units to attack Nagi on the enemy phase. Henry because he deals the most damage to Nagi, and Sylvia because she deals at least 5 damage to her as well. So I guess technically that wouldn't have even been a problem because Henry doesn't charge Bonfire at all off of Nagi's special fighter. It's just a little more damage against Nagi here because Sylvia does hit twice and deals more damage than Henry's singular 10. But oh well, not really an issue. She will be able to get Soul off because her special fighter breaks through the guard effect on both Corvus Tome and Guard Sword, since she does perform a follow-up. So the finisher here should be some pretty easy cleanup. Let me take a look and see. Does Idun? Okay, no, she does not take out Henry.
Yes.
In fact, even this debuff of -7s won't be enough, but that's not a huge deal. Let's go ahead and take Sylvia down, and then I'll just have her attack Henry. Sorry. And I know that the remaining heavy trap is fake because I tripped the real one last turn. So what I'll just do is I'll smite Peony up and then have her refresh Idun for the finisher. Although actually, now that I think about it, Nagi actually did deal damage to Henry, so I guess I didn't even really need to do that. I could have just had her attack him. Oh well, no big deal. And that is it. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Aether Raids Offense. I had a trying but ultimately satisfying time with the more difficult map lineup. It was an interesting challenge for a usually relaxed season. I wouldn't want it to happen every season though. That would quickly become unpleasant. Next week we will go back into Aster Season, which fortunately overlaps with Fire Season, so I'll be able to field Ephraim as my bonus unit. With any luck, his Gale Force capabilities will prove useful to the teams. So, we will see how it goes, and I hope to be back next week with another episode of Aether Raids Offense. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.